I started this YouTube channel for two reasons. One, to help people who have an interest in property investing to either get started or improve their business, and two, to promote the high standard of homes that landlords and investors provide, which you don't get to see in the mainstream media. This video, however, is going to focus on some bad news though. It's hard enough when you start out investing in property with all the obstacles you have to overcome, and this is another one of those obstacles. I don't want to do this video, I've put it off for some time, but I know I'm actually doing you a disservice if I don't talk about and share this information with you. So here goes. Can we play some sad music, and can you zoom in slowly for a dramatic effect? Currently, all landlords pay tax on any profit they receive, and the amount of tax they pay will depend on their total income. George Osborne delivered a summer budget statement to the House of Commons on Wednesday the 8th of July 2015. It was the first Conservative budget in 18 years. In that statement, he announced he was going to restrict the amount of tax relief landlords receive on their buy-to-let mortgages to the basic level of income tax. Stay with me, because in a minute I'll explain what this means for both landlords and tenants, why I'll be continuing business as normal, and what you can do to help raise awareness to people who don't understand the full impact of this. Hi, I'm Andy Walker from Monopoly.com, where I blog online about my journey as a property investor and landlord, sharing what works for me and what doesn't to help you start or improve your property business. Now let's take a look at that part of George Osborne's statement, and I'll jump in and add a couple of comments.
We will create a more level playing field between those buying a home to let and those who are buying a home to live in. Buy-to-let landlords have a huge advantage in the market, as they can offset their mortgage interest payments against their income, whereas home buyers cannot.
That's because a buy-to-let property produces an income. It's a business. A home doesn't provide an income, so therefore it's not a business, so no tax should be paid or tax relief given. People are only taxed on income, right? As a homeowner and investor myself, that all sounds perfectly reasonable to me. I wouldn't expect tax relief on my home mortgage because I don't pay tax for having it. Let's move on.
And the better off the landlord, the more tax relief they get. For the wealthiest, every pound of mortgage interest costs they incur, they get 45p back from the taxpayer.
I don't understand that statement. Can someone explain this to me? I don't receive any money from the taxpayer. Comments below.
All this has contributed to the rapid growth in buy-to-let properties, which now account for over 15% of new mortgages, something the Bank of England warned us last week could pose a risk to our financial stability.
Firstly, there's been a growth in the private rented sector because there's been a demand. Previous governments have failed to ensure that there's enough housing to cope with the demand, and the private rented sector have picked up the slack. Secondly, how can this pose a risk to the country's financial stability? Lenders loan against the asset once they've evaluated both the asset and the borrower. If the borrower ever defaults, they potentially lose their asset and their deposit. The lender gets their asset back and either keeps it or sells it on at no loss because it was protected by the borrower's deposit.
So we will act, but we will act in a proportionate and gradual way, because I know that many hardworking people who've saved and invested in property depend on the rental income they get. So we will retain mortgage interest relief on residential property, but we will now restrict it to the basic rate of income tax. And to help people adjust, we will phase in the withdrawal of the higher rate reliefs over a 4-year period and only start withdrawal in April 2017.
I like to keep my videos friendly and clean because there may be some young and aspiring entrepreneurs that watch this channel, or parents with little ones in the vicinity. So I'm going to gag myself while I tell George what I think about all this. That's better. So Section 24 of the Finance Act 2015 is aimed at disallowing the perfectly legitimate finance costs of individuals who operate buy-to-let properties. The government not only wishes to continue to tax rental profits, but they will now not allow individual investors to offset the main cost of arriving at that taxable profit. Every single business is allowed to offset their total running costs against their income before being taxed on any profit. It's a key factor to the generally accepted accounting principle. And Section 24 changes that very fundamental and important business principle. The tax that a landlord would be expected to pay may be greater than their profit. It's important to know that this new tax legislation is only aimed at individuals who own and operate buy-to-let properties in their own name, and excludes institutions, corporations, wealthy cash buyers and overseas landlords. I just want to quickly share this interview with you on Property Tribes with Lisa Orme, who's an investor, landlord and mortgage broker.
Nobody has a go at Tesco for making a business out of a fundamental need of providing food. Nobody has a go at H&M or M&S or anybody else for providing a fundamental need of clothing and making a business out of it. Why are we victimised as landlords and made to feel bad out of making a business of providing one of the other needs, which is housing? We don't take properties away from home buyers. We provide decent homes, we renovate homes that often aren't suitable for anybody to live in, and the fact is that if you got rid of all landlords tomorrow, doesn't make all tenants home buyers. It just simply doesn't. There are a lot of people who want to rent, have to rent, or simply will never ever be in a position to buy a home. And it doesn't matter whether you have private landlords or don't, or you do or you don't. You're never going to be in a position where you're going to be able to make everybody a homeowner. We're a fundamental part of the housing sector. We have to take pride in that and we have to stand up for ourselves.
Well said, Lisa. I couldn't have said it better myself. Look, I fully understand that there's a shortage of housing in the UK, but taxing people is not the answer. It doesn't provide a solution to the problem. Building more houses is the only solution I see to this problem, and that can be done without raising taxes. So why am I continuing with business as usual? Well, because wherever tax is concerned, it's always the customer who picks up the bill. And in the world of property, we all know the customer is the tenant. When the government increases VAT, it's not the business that creates the product or service that pays the extra tax, it's the customer or the end user that pays that tax. For that reason, Section 24 is now being referred to as the tenant tax. Rents will increase because landlords are not going to be able to run their businesses at a loss. If landlords aren't able to achieve their new rents, then they'll be forced to sell and the tenant will need to find somewhere else to live. Either way, it's not good for the tenants or the landlord. Also, Section 24 is a failed tax experiment from Ireland, where rents increased 50% between the years of 1998 and 2001 before it was eventually scrapped by the government. I've been campaigning against this, and trust me, I haven't done it just for my own benefit. I've done it for the benefit of others, because I have an understanding how this will work from the research that I've done. When the Irish government abolished their version of Section 24, do you think the rents went back down? No. They stayed at the inflated rate. So there are huge efforts being made to have Section 24 reversed before it's implemented in April 2017. And this is where you can help by spreading the awareness. Steve Bolton and Chris Cooper are two landlords who started crowdfunding for Axe the Tenant Tax campaign, which has been supported by more than 150,000 landlords. Although they were recently unsuccessful in a legal battle in the form of a judicial review, it was a route that had to be taken and they should be congratulated for their efforts. The fight is not over and they're now focusing 100% on the political route on their quest to axe the tenant tax. If you want to find out more and support this cause with me, I'll place a link in the description. The website contains lots of useful statistics and information, plus a social media kit to help people spread the word, which includes ready-made status updates for you to share. It's believed that 97% of the UK's 2 million landlords have 3 or less properties and are not engaged on landlord issues on a regular basis. Please share this video and the link to the campaign below to any landlords or tenants that you know to help increase awareness. I have been surprised by the number of landlords that I've met in recent months who are not aware of this. Of the 2 million landlords within the UK, the majority are hard-working people with professional careers who have invested in property to help support their families' futures whilst providing nice homes for people. Any shares to this video or just the link to the campaign would be greatly appreciated. What are your thoughts on Section 24 and what do you think will happen? Comments below. It's now time for question time, the part of the video where I take one of your questions from the comments or my social media platforms and I answer it for you. This week's question comes from Abby Adu and she asks, if it's the tenant's fault in breaking something, do you deduct it from their deposit, ask for the money, or does it come from your own pocket? It will come from their deposit and the tenants will be made aware of this when they sign the tenancy agreement. In my experience, it's very rare that a tenant will cause damage because they know beforehand that they would have to pay for it or replace it when the property is inspected before they move out. Most of the items I've had to replace are broken or worn out through normal wear and tear, like the washing machine, cooker, fridge, freezer, which I replace because I let my properties fully furnished, so it's all part of the package. Thanks for the question, and if you have a question you would like answered, then you can leave a comment down below or send me a message on either Facebook or Twitter. That's it. As I said at the beginning, I didn't particularly want to do this video. I like to focus on the positive things of being an investor and landlord, but it had to be done. Just don't let it put you off if you're wanting to make a start. Just remember that the UK needs good landlords to provide nice homes for people. Don't forget that. Please take a second to like this video if you found it useful and share, or just share a link to the Tenant Tax website to help raise awareness. Definitely subscribe if it's your first time visiting the channel so you won't miss any of my future videos, which will all be geared towards helping you start or improve your property business. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next video.
Order! This house will come to order. Order! I want to hear what the Chancellor said, because it's affecting all the people.